Like I think I do like, but I'm kind of
Okay. Well, which one we want to start with?
Number 11.
Number 11? Okay. So, what do we know about 361?
It's a perfect square.
Beautiful. What is it?
19.
And when you pull it out, what do you do to 2 and 19? All right. So, what about the, you can't do anything to the A. What about the B to the third? There you go. And then what's 2 times 19? Oh, I forgot to put the A. Oops. 38. And take out the B squared and you get? And what's left inside? There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I told you, all I got to do is just hold your hand and you're like, I got it. All right. 12.
Okay, 12 is so 529 times 2, you bring 1050.
Beautiful. Okay, first things first. Did you check this to see if it was a perfect square first?
Yes.
And it's not, right? And then you know the biggest perfect square is 25, which is 625. Doesn't go. Next perfect square is 24, which is 576. That doesn't divide. Next perfect square is 23, which is 529, right? Okay, and then Jalen's telling us that goes in, and that should go in twice, right? J to the 9. 9 is not a number, it's an exponent. So you have to treat it like an exponent. Even though it's on that list as a perfect square, what's the biggest even number? 8. So it's J to the 8, and then J. All right, y'all good with that? You okay? All right, look, guys. We don't do this stuff in Math Workshop just to do it, okay? It's coming soon. Notice that factoring we did for 2 months, and then it showed up in our test, right? The square roots are coming in Chapter 6. The exponents are coming in Chapter 5. So they're coming, okay? That's why we do them first. So take it seriously. Okay? Good? All right, here we go. 529 gets to come out as what number? Yeah. And J to the 8 gets to come out as? There you go. And what's left inside? And the J to the 4, J to the 4 does not have a square root over him, so you can't take him any further. You're done. Y'all okay?
No, I understand. I'll solve her week.
3 weeks.
That's nice.
Okay, what about 13? You do. Which ones do you add?
W.
There you go. You got W to the 1, and you got W to the 8. There you go. Yep. Let's do 14 for a minute, okay? Let's do the easy ones first. Let's build our confidence up, okay? All right, what about 15? Just add them, and what would you get? All right, but we don't want negative exponents. So I think Bella was telling us that's over 1, right? To make it positive, you just flip it upside down. You do the opposite. So it's 1 over x to the positive 4. There you go. All right, 16. 16, you could say 5 minus 11. Okay, but you're going to get a negative number, and then you're going to have to go through all this stuff where you flip it, right? You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to do it 11 minus 5, just because I'm a little lazy and don't like to do more work than I have to. So 11 minus 5 is positive 6. And where would it go? With the biggest exponent on the bottom. Very good. See, that just kind of saves you an extra step. And then there's no number up top, so you put a 1. Y'all okay with that?
Yeah.
What's 11 minus 5?
6.
That's why the f to the 6 went on the bottom with the biggest exponent. Got it? You sure? You okay? More or less? Don't worry, we're going to be doing it for several weeks. What did he just say?
He said more or less.
Alright, so 15 we added, right? 16 we subtracted. Y'all okay with that?
Yes.
Alright, first things first on 14.
You need subtract.
We could multiply, but we could fix some things first to make our life easier.
You can get rid of the negatives.
No.
You can simplify the x's and the y's. You do inside the parentheses first to make your life easier, right?
Yeah.
So, Do not look at this negative, because that is not a negative exponent, okay? Leave that alone. You've got x to the third and x to the second. Where does the x to the 1 go, Luke? Where's the x to the 1 go? On the top or the bottom? The biggest exponent is on the top.
Wait, what? Well, there's a 2.
Stop. Stop. That's not an exponent, buddy. Sebastian. Wait, what is not an appropriate response to we don't understand something. Yes, Sebastian.
Miss Margaret, I don't
Yes, sir.
understand the arithmetic teaching us.
All right. You have x to the third on the top.
Yeah.
You have x to the second on the bottom, correct? When you divide the bases, what do you do to the exponents?
You subtract them and then you
All
get
right.
okay.
And you get positive 1.
Understand.
And where's the biggest exponent at?
Over the top.
On the top.
Okay.
Listen the first time. It's the exact same thing I just said. Just did it twice. Yes, Sebastian.
What about the 2?
We're not done, my angel. Can we just do one thing at a time? I'm trying to make your life easier. Just chill.
I don't understand the 2.
Yeah, we like it. It makes our life easier.
Sebastian, you do understand what I just did because I just explained it to you and you said, oh yeah, and I haven't done anything else.
That's the, oh yeah, but I don't understand.
Then why did you say, oh yeah?
Because he doesn't know what else.
Now, you have y to the 2. Listen the first time. Listen the first time. You have y to the 2 and you have y to the 5th. Subtract them so they're positive. What's 5 minus 2?
3 on the bottom.
And it goes to the biggest one on the bottom. There you go.
Interesting.
I'm not done yet, so don't freak out. I'm not done yet. Y'all okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I did not mess with the 2, so he stays on the top. And I did not do anything with that negative, so that stays there.
Okay.
And then it's still negative 2 as an exponent. I'm not done. We don't like negative exponents, right? It's the same as 15. How did we make that x to the negative 4 positive? You flipped it, right? So where does the 2x on the numerator go? It goes to the bottom. Negative 1 y to the third goes to the top. And the exponent changes to positive. Yep. This guy right here is not an exponent, okay? So he's just kind of like a little attachment. Positive 2. We just flipped it over and it makes it positive exponent. Alright, we're still not done. We got one more step. Hold on. Chill. Alright, when you multiply the bases, you add the exponents. When you divide the bases, you subtract the exponents. What happens when you have one base?
You don't multiply.
Multiply. Alright, now here we go. You are squaring a negative. That means you have 2 negatives.
That's going to be.
That's going to be a positive.
You're going to have y to the 6.
Beautiful.
Is it 4x squared?
There you go. 2 squared is 4. And then you multiply 1 times 2 and you get 2.
Hold up.
It's
You
just
subtract.
easy.
No, you can't. You can't subtract.
They're not like. Okay? Alright, you should have grabbed an ACT all the way in. Alright. If you did not, go grab one within the next 5 seconds. And we are not going to cheat. We are not going to start yet. Now, if you have not, listen while you work. If you have not signed up for the ACT prep session, are you listening? On November 18th, please sign up today because tomorrow Mr. Hester's going to come around and take that sign-up sheet, so it won't be there anymore. Okay? So if you need to sign up, then make sure you sign up.
Is this for the ACT or for
ACT prep session. Now, tomorrow is the deadline to sign up for the actual ACT, though, without having to do a late fee.
today?
Tomorrow, the 3rd. At least that's what I looked up online.
One of my friends
Yes.
told me yesterday.
What? How do we sign up for this?
ACT.org. Have you ever taken the ACT yet? You'll need to make an account, and then you're going to need, like your mom, your dad, your uncle, whoever you live with, credit card or PayPal or something so that you can pay the $38, I think it is. Is that right? So, I think it's like $38.50 maybe. Huh? All right, we're doing 3 problems. Doing 3 problems. So we're doing 3 minutes. Don't start yet. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Go. We're using the timer on the screen. Can y'all see that? Here, I'll pull it up. There you go, right there. Can y'all see it?
Tony, this is 13.
Here. Seconds. All right, here we go. Ready? Okay, so remember that even if you can shave 1 second off of each question, how many minutes will that take you?
2 minutes.
1 whole minute, right? So every second is very crucial. So here we go. 23. What am I going to do? Remember, you start with the question. So what am I going to do with the -3 and the -2? Sebastian?
You're going to find out which one of the answers minus x minus 5 and y plus 3 gives you that.
A lot easier way to do besides subtracting them. Melody? You just plug it in, right? So right here, -3, plug it into x. What's -3 minus 5? -8. So that, so that's going to be either A or B. And then plug in -2 plus 3. How much is that? +1. That'll save you a couple extra seconds, okay? Good so far?
Yeah.
Sweet. Here we go. 24. 24. So you've got x equals 4a plus b over 3. All good? All right. What is the only thing it wants you to do? Find b, right? The less you can write down, the more time that you're going to save yourself, okay? So you're dividing by 3. Multiply by 3x.
Then subtract.
Then that, and don't write any of that down if you don't have to, okay? All right, so you have 3x, and you have to subtract 4a, so that should be f. Well, okay? If you waste your time writing that stuff down when you don't need to, you've wasted your time, which means you are costing yourself money. Now, if you need to write those steps, that is completely different. Yes, ma'am?
But couldn't you also have done, like, divided it by 3 and gotten 4a plus b is equal to 3x, and then added b, and then
Wait, divided by 3? You lost me when you did that. Why would you divide by 3? Then you would have gotten x over 3. And then that wouldn't have canceled this one out.
Okay.
What'd you do?
I don't know.
You have it written on there still?
No, I just erased it.
How am I supposed to see what you did wrong?
I don't know. Which is more even.
All right. Okay. Let's look at 25. 25. It's start with the question. What's the actual question saying? The whole question given at the pen, right? You've got a. Yes, that would be perimeter. Very good. And if you don't know the length, if we don't know the length, we put an X, right? All right. Perimeter means to add. So if this one's 12, that means this one's 12. That gives you
24.
And if this one's X, that means this one's X.
Which is 36.
What? If this one's X, then this one's X, you would get 2X, because this is my question. And what's it equal? 60. Now when you subtract the 24, what do you
You
get?
get 36, and when you divide by 2, you get 18. I knew it all on my own. I'm so proud of myself.
Very good.
Did you get B or A?
Ooh, get him, Bella. B.
Yeah, the area.
There.
The area.
Good.
If you were trying to find the area of 60, or if you were trying to find, if the area was 60 and you were trying to find the variable, that would be this is an area.
This was perimeter.
That's when you would multiply and you would divide all that. Area is how much room the dog would have to run around inside. Perimeter is how much fence you're going to need on the outside. So, all right, here we go. I just handed you the new set of notes. It's all the same from what we've been doing because it's still chapter 4. You like? Well, I always write them right here. Well, I didn't write today's because it's one. You want me to write today for you? Here. I gotta write it anyway.
Splits it up.
Are we gonna put a big structure for a test? Oh, you like the learning targets at the beginning.
Yes, because like splits
Oh, okay.
it up.
So you just like to see how much we got to do, right? Oh, fudge nuggets. Rip that.
Not for real.
Nah, it's gonna bother me. This paper's too expensive. I can't throw it away. It's like $50 for that thing.
Really?
Yes, it's expensive.
Well, that's like massive sticky notes.
Yeah,
And there's like,
there's quite a few on there. All right,
I still think that's over.
it is, but you know, it helps to put it up here so I don't have to write it on the board.
60 of them?
I don't really know how many are in there, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to continue with what we've been doing, right? We've been working in our calculator, finding vertex, finding x-intercepts, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We have an equation, and what should your equation always supposed to equal before you plug it in your calculator? 0. And then when you plug that in, like number 1, what would happen? What would you be looking for if it just said to solve? The x values, right? Which could be 1, it could be 2, or it could be no real solutions, right? But what are we doing now? Completing a square, and you're like, Miss Blackman, it's the exact same thing we've been doing. I'm going to get the exact same numbers. Why do we have to do this a different way? Because when you get to pre-cal, there is a thing called vectors where complete the square is going to be very useful. All right, here we go. There are 4. There are 4 steps. Please write these steps down because they are never going to change no matter how difficult these problems get, okay? We're going to jump around on this page so that we can start off easy and gradually get a little bit harder, okay? Very first step, you ready? This is the one and only time you do not want it to equal to 0, so the very first step, Sebastian, is to get all of the x values. themselves. Get the x values by themselves. Step 1, you might want to write it down. Step 1. Get the x values by themselves. Get x by itself. Alright, so number 1, you got x squared plus 10x minus 11. What does not have an x with it?
11.
Then you got to move that 11 to the other side, and you get
X squared plus 10x equals 11.
beautiful. Awesome. Second step. Second step has a whole bunch of 2's. You ready?
Yes.
Second term, divide by 2 and square. Second step is to take the second term, divide by 2, and square it. Second step is to take the second term, divide by 2, and square it. All right, now, I know that my lovely, smart, genius little babies in here can tell me my second term is how much? 10. And when I divide it by 2 and square it, it would be 25, right? However, this is an easy problem. What happens when we get all the way down to the bottom? That it's not going to be that easy, right? Sebastian?
Yes.
Put that phone up.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you need this. All right. Here's the deal. I want you to write your steps out because I'm going to let you cheat somewhere, okay? So you need to write your steps out so that I can show you where you get to cheat, okay? So we have 10, divide by 2, and square it. That's 5 squared, which is 25. And then just leave that there, and in a minute I'll show you where we get to cheat, okay?
What about the X? Is that not right?
Not right now. Just the number right now. Just the B term. All right, so then we're going to take this 25. No matter how hard these problems get, whatever your final answer is what you're going to add. Why are we going to add? Because it's positive to both sides. Because it's legal. Because if you do it to one side, you got to do it to the other. You could add whatever you wanted to as long as you did it to both sides. But the 25 is what's going to help us out. What's 11 plus 25? 36. All right, here's step 3. You ready? Step 3, step 3, step 3. Factor. Factor. You moaning and you groaning, but as long as you write your steps on the side, I'm going to save you grace in a minute.
Please do. Please.
What's the factors of 25 that add or subtract to be 10? Time is going to be right there. Right there. That's why I circled it. That's why I told you to write your steps out. No matter how hard it gets, every single time it'll be the number that's squared. What kind of 5 is that? Positive. So you write x plus 5 squared. Yes, sir.
Didn't we already do this?
In Algebra 1, yes, sir. But the further down we go, the more it turns into Algebra 2.
But I remember.
Yes, we did this in Algebra 1.
Like, no,
Yes.
we.
We did this in Algebra 1. We did this in Algebra 1. We did this in Algebra 1. I think that's it, right? Yes.
Danielle.
Three of us.
Oh,
Oh, Danielle should not hear that. Okay, so here's what we do. Do you see why I put it as squared? Because it's really x plus 5 and x plus 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 times 5 is 25. It's still factored.
It's always going to be
We just got to cheat a little bit. Y'all okay?
So it's always going to be the coefficient plus whatever that is.
Coefficient, what?
She's talking about the 5.
Like the x. The x.
Oh, the x?
The x plus whatever.
Yes, whatever is right here. And then squared. Because that's why it's called complete. The square, we're dealing with perfect squares and numbers that are squared. So every time it'll work out like that. Right, Sebastian?
Good.
All right, last step. Here we go. Step 4. I'm going to be upset in a minute when I take that phone. Step 4. What? Okay. Step 4, final step. Here we go. Step 4. Solve for x. Solve for x. Solve for x. Final step. Step 3 was factor. Step 4 is solve for x. So you have two things with x. You have a plus 5 with x, and you have a square. Which one do I need to get rid of first?
The square.
How do you get rid of it? You square root it. And then my lovely angel babies that made hundreds on their test yesterday, the square root of 36 is not 6. What is it?
Plus or minus.
Plus and minus 6. Plus and minus 6.
Hey, if we forgot to.
I'm not going to take off much because I know it's new, but from now on, yes, I will take off. Yes. Yes.
Does the square root and the 2 cancel out?
Yes, they're opposites of each other. Yes,
I haven't
Sebastian.
finished my test, but I got like 4 or 3.
And that applies to number 1 how?
Because you mentioned the test, I forgot that.
Okay, here we go. You have two equations. Listen. You got x plus 5 equals 6. And you got x plus 5 equals negative 6, okay? Everybody good with that?
Yes.
So how would you get x by itself now?
Subtract.
There you go. So you have positive 6 minus 5. How much is that? How much is that? 1. And then, Luke, you have negative 6 minus 5. There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, those are your what? X values, X intercepts. That's the word I'm looking for, right? So on your quiz next week, how could you check your answer?
You use your calculator.
Use your calculator, check your graph, or look at your table, right? Okay. All right. We're going to skip around. Next, we're going to go to number 3. What's the very first step that we're going to do first? There you go. Add the 65. Get x by itself, whatever you want to call it. All right. Do that real quick while I erase the board. Hold on. Do not get ahead and start confusing everybody. Okay. Chill it. Yeah, it is term B. Or your linear term, or your second term, whatever you want to call it. All right, here we go. Second step. Second term. What is your second term? Negative 8. Divide it by 2. Square it. I know that you can do that in your head, but write your steps out. Because what do we do with this guy?
We're going to use it.
We're going to use it to do what?
Plug it in on the other side.
How do I plug it into the other side? What do? You add it to both sides, right? No matter how hard these problems get, whatever this answer is what you add to both sides. Here we go. Add them together, and what do you get? 81. There you go. No matter how hard these problems get, you can always cheat right here. Whatever number is squared, the simplified version is what you're going to put. So how can I factor x squared minus 8x plus 16?
X minus 4 squared.
Oh,
X minus 4 squared. Where do you get negative 6 from?
I don't even know. Oh, yeah, never mind.
That's our factor. What comes after factoring?
For some reason, I saw 16 in my brain. It was just like 12.
Oh. Solve for x, right? So I would. Yeah. And what's the square root of 81?
Minus 9.
Mhm.
That was not so
No, it's not. Because if you just put 9, you're only going to get one of your answers.
But they're always going to have 2, right?
Unless it only hits one time. And then when you add it or subtract it over, you'll still get the same answer twice. The same exact answer twice. All right. And then, yes. No, not on this sheet, no ma'am. But we will have one of those problems eventually, yes. All right, we're going to add the 4 over, right? We got positive 9 plus 4. Yeah.
negative 5.
And you have negative 9 plus 4, which is indeed negative 5. So on your quiz next week, how can you check that answer? Use your calculator, plug it in, and when you look at your table, what numbers? There should be zeros with them. If you look at your graph, what should be happening there? Hitting the x-axis, right? All right, here we go. We're going to go to number 6 next. Yes, Dalton, what you got?
Would it have to be a vertical line for it to hit a base?
Say that one more time.
How, you said it could only hit it once.
Yes.
That's
What? Well, no, that's not very good example because see how that only hits once versus that where it hits twice. Ooh, what would I get if it was like that?
No.
What's my answer with a complete square gonna have?
No, no.
It's gonna.
What's it gonna have in it? What was the very last thing we learned before your test?
An imaginary number.
It's gonna have imaginary numbers. Hence the reason we're going to number 6. You ready? All right, number 6. Here we go. We gotta hustle because we do not have long. All right, number 6. What do we do first? Subtract 22. And we get x squared plus 8x equals negative 22. We have to kind of hustle, so stay with me. You ready? Second term, because we have to get the x terms by itself, we subtract 22. So we would get positive 4 squared, which is positive 16. And no matter how hard these problems get, what do we do with this guy every time? Add it to both sides. It's always going to be adding because you are always going to be squaring, and squaring will always make a positive. Add them together, and what do you get? Negative what? Beautiful.
Negative 6.
Yep. Third step is to factor. No matter how hard these problems get, you always get to look right there and cheat. So what am I going to write? X plus 4 squared. Yep. Last step is to solve. What would I do first? Square root it.
That would be positive 6, negative, plus or minus 6i, right?
No, because you have to find the square root of negative 6.
There is not a square root of negative 6, right? But what does the negative get to come out as? Plus and minus I, right? And since I cannot square root the 6, he stays as a square root of 6. Now Sebastian's square root of negative 36 will be plus and minus 6i. Okay? Alright, now I still have one more step left. Yes, sir? When you square root a negative, that's what we just took a test on. Anytime you square root a negative, it becomes I. Because it's not possible to square root a negative. Fellow, what's wrong with it? Okay. Alright, one more step, guys. Here we go. How do I get x by itself? Subtract the 4, and our complex number always goes in the back. Your back.
Wait, we only get one answer?
You have 2. Because what's that in the middle?
Plus or minus.
Plus and minus. That means you have 2 answers.
What would the x
What would the other x be? 4 plus 6.
Negative 4 plus I square root of 6.
And negative 4 minus I square root of 6.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
You
And
just
if you
make it
get-
into 1 because it's easier just to write plus or minus instead of writing.
It's much faster, yes. And this will always be how you see it as an answer choice. That's why I want to leave it like this. Alright, if you get an I, you can't necessarily check your answer, but you should know that your graph does what if you get an I. There you go. Very good. Alright, let's go to number 2. Let's go back to number 2. Here we go. Back to number 2. What's the first thing? Alright.
Ooh, this is another imaginary number.
Chill it. We got to hustle. Number 2.
Oh, I see what
It's 6.5.
Chill it. Quit getting ahead of me. Y'all okay so far? Okay. Remember from the very beginning of school, I told you 2 things. Fractions were your friends. Mixed numbers were not. This lesson is why. Here we go. What's your second term?
Negative
13.
Divided by 2 and
Negative
squared.
6.5.
Fractions are your friends, and mixed numbers are not. Now, keep it as a fraction. Do not change it to a mixed number. Fractions are your friends. What is negative 13 squared? 169. What is 2 squared? 4. No matter how hard these problems get, every single time, what do you do with this guy? Add it to both sides. There you go. Stop it. We do not have time. You have your calculator? Wonderful. Grab it. You remember that fraction button I taught you with matrices? Kinda. Okay. So we hit negative 36 plus, how do we do fractions? Parentheses. We never ever did anything with an alpha y, dear. Isn't that on your calculator? It's the same thing I've got. Now, I know that you know 6.25 is 6 1/4, but that is not going to do you any good. Okay, you need it as an improper fraction, so you hit the math button, find the green button. You see the green button? It's right below the green button, and you should get that when it pops up. Y'all okay? And then hit enter, and your calculator is asking you, do you want me to make your answer a fraction? And you tell it yes. And what do you know about both of those numbers? And that is going to make my life so much easier when they're both perfect squares. Here we go. So we got most of the time. All right? And then no matter how hard these problems get, every single time you get to look right there to cheat. Okay? So what would I write?
X.
Yeah? X minus 13 over 2 squared. All right, now what's next? Square root it. It does not equal 5 halves. What does it equal?
It did not equal 5 halves.
Plus and minus.
Plus and minus 5.
Oh.
Alright, here we go. How do we get x by itself?
Add 13.
Alright, I'm just going to put a plus sign because I don't want to write the whole thing. Here we go. You have positive 5 plus 13.
Which is negative 18.
5 plus 13. 5 plus 13. It's 18. And then it's divided by 2.
9.
Beautiful. Oh. Then you have negative 5 plus 13. How much is that? It's 8 over 2. And when you have a quiz next week, what should you do? Check it where? On your calculator. And what better happened at 9 and 4?
They better touch the x.
They better touch the axis there, or if you look at your table, they better do what? Have zeros. All right, here we go. Number 4. We gotta move it. Number 4. Here we go. We gotta get 4 done. Let's go. 4 has a number in front, so to get rid of it, you divide by 2. Then you get the x by itself by moving your constant, which in this case is the 5 over 2. So you're going to subtract it to the other side. Then you take your second term. What is your second term?
Negative 7.
And you still, no matter if it's a fraction or not, have to divide it by 2 and then square it. It was already a fraction. Then you divide it by 2 and square it. Then you do like in middle school. You kiss, right? Keep it switch.
Yeah.
Keep the 7 over 2. Change division to multiplication. And if I switch 2 1 over 2. Very good. Hint, hint, it'll always be 1 over 2 because we are always dividing by 2. We've done it in here before, man.
I remember like keep change flip. So keep change flip.
Yep, keep change flip was another one. Alright, multiply across, you get negative 7 over 4. Square it, and you get 49 over 16. No matter how hard these problems get, what do you do with this guy every single time? Add it to both squares. They'll always be perfect squares. Yes, they are, and they'll always be perfect squares. Look. They'll always be perfect squares because you just squared it up. Alright, you got your calculators? Let's hurry. Here we go. We got parentheses, negative 5 divided by 2, close parentheses, plus parentheses, 49 divided by 16, and we get a crazy decimal. And how do you fix it? Math, fraction, fraction. What do we get? Which is making my heart so happy because they both perfect squares. And no matter how hard these problems get, you always look right here where it is simplified and squared to cheat. So what do I write? X minus 7 over 4 squared. Square root it. Your homework tonight is to finish number 4, and then we have to do number 5 tomorrow. If you are not going to be here, listen while you work. If you are not going to be here tomorrow, I completely understand that, but that means you got an E day tomorrow, which means you better watch the video of what you missed. Does that make sense? Do you watch the video by going through and watching the video and go, check, I watched the video, I'm done? Is that what you do? No. You actually got to practice doing your notes just like you would if you were in class, okay? Pause it if you go too fast. Rewind it if you need to rewind it. I need my calculators put back. Yes? What's your question?
Oh, I need to, it's the, on the calculator question.
All right, what is it?
Well,